Call me a little dramatic. I suppose Disney's Animal Kingdom isn't actually dead, but with the announcement on December 2nd, 2025, that Bluey would be added to Rafiki's Planet Watch, doing songs and dance, well, it might as well be. I can already picture them hanging a Bluey Kingdom banner over the entrance to Animal Kingdom like it's a Spirit Halloween. But Animal Kingdom didn't die because of that one announcement, no. There was something that happened 25 years ago that laid the foundation for Animal Kingdom's future. When Animal Kingdom first was imagined, it was pitched as a place where nature told the greatest stories. They brought in Imagineer Joe Rohde, who was tasked with designing this so people didn't see it as just another zoo. He then set out and built Animal Kingdom from the ground up based on creating an immersive experience. Conservation at its core, Disney's Animal Kingdom would be different. I really like this quote that speaks to the why of Animal Kingdom. He said, "We've created this place that is so obsessively realistic, you really can sit down with someone from Africa and talk about what Africa looks like. Because I'll tell you, I can't count the number of people from Africa that were taken out into our fake who have said, man, this just looks like where I'm from." Disney's announcement to include Bluey full-time into the fabric of the park wasn't them just announcing a new experience. It was saying, we don't think reality is enough to entertain you anymore. I mentioned earlier, however, that there was something that happened 25 years ago that I believe set the scene for it to be okay to deviate from the mission. Originally, the Dinoland section of the park wasn't supposed to be there. In fact, it was an entirely themed land called Beastly Kingdom. The cancellation of this kingdom is an entire video upon itself, but it was going to explore the mythical, a very important concept to humanity from the stories we tell in our imaginations. Michael Eisner, CEO at the time, was going way over budget with other areas of the park, and it forced him to make a decision. Scrap Beastly Kingdom or build a cheaper Dinoland USA. He chose to build Dinoland USA and kick the can down the road for expansion. He chose to save money, which in my opinion laid the groundwork to making it okay to casually accept mediocrity if it means making cash or saving it. Now, I am not going to pretend that everything at Animal Kingdom leading up to this point has been sunshine and rainbows. I mean, we all remember Kite Tales, right? Disney, once a company that prided itself on innovation and placemaking, which is building the place first and making the IP the culture and environment, instead has changed to IP content parking. You used to go to Rafiki's Planet Watch to be immersed in the conservation side of Disney and to feel part of change, not to watch a cartoon dog dance and buy bubble wands shaped like his head. Now, the environments are slowly becoming the wrapper to hold space for the franchises, which may or may not fit with the cohesion of the environment. Now, Dinoland USA was no great thematic representation by any stretch of the imagination, but at least it had a theme. It connected. Because then came Disney's great announcement, Tropical Americas. Now, this is a land that fits into the content parking structure quite well. Let's see how many IPs we can park into one space with no need to connect or flow into any other lands. Indiana Jones? Sure. Let's turn Dinosaur, the ride that was there before, into Indiana Jones. Let's repurpose the track and put it in. Boom. Encanto. A dark ride based on the film will focus on the magical casita, while Antonio talks to animals. A new carousel featuring wood-carving Disney animals will replace the fossil dig site. And you tell me, what does a carousel, Indiana Jones, and Encanto have to do with each other? I'll wait for your answer. All of them alone will no likely be wonderful rides. I'm not going to pretend they won't be. But again, it erodes the original idea of the Animal Kingdom experiment. At the risk of sounding like a Disney cynical Twitter guy, I just want to say I recognize that Walt Disney loved IP. Walt Disney himself was always trying to incorporate IP into the theme parks. A lot of people like me in this space will try very hard to convince you he wasn't like that, but in reality, he just didn't have much IP yet to incorporate. It's why he co-opted stories of old, and then tried to bring in things to Disneyland to create a draw. In fact, I made an entire video about a failed boat ride called the Mike Fink Killboats at Disneyland that were directly based on the success of his Davy Crockett franchise. And look, maybe the reality is people outside of our passionate base of theme park immersive theming lovers don't really care. They want to bring their kids to see Bluey dance or Rapunzel hit bad guys with a frying pan. And the reality is theme parks can't run themselves for free. They need to make money, and to make money you need to attract people to the parks. But the danger in turning them into content warehouses, which at first will be absolutely wonderful for those people seeking those thrills, is that it comes at the expense of placemaking, immersion, story, the reason why Disney was so big to begin with. The budget cut of 1998 was the beginning of accepting less for a little savings, and sadly, this strategy is going to continue until every corner of Animal Kingdom is no longer recognizable, and that makes this theme park lover sad. I love story. I love immersion. These rides will be fun, but the soul that made it art is disappearing like the species of animals they were setting out to save. If defunct rides are your thing, you're going to watch my next video where it talks all about the time that Walt Disney brought IP into the park and it failed big time. I'll see you next time, pal.